Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Good, J-Hood. How you guys doing?
How you doing, our guy? So this is an opportunity, a chance to get to 7-3, and I was breaking it down with Waddle the other night. He really likes the matchup for the Bears. Jonathan Grenard is questionable whether he'll be able to go. Very good pass rusher for them. But their quarterback has not had great success in terms of completion percentage. He's in the 50s. How do you break this matchup down?
Well, you got to make J.J. McCarthy uncomfortable, first of all. He's a guy that hit his right hand on the shoulder pads of the left guard last week, and he's missed a little practice time because of it. You have four receptions by Justin Jefferson on 12 targets. Jordan Addison had 3 on 11 targets. I think whenever you have a young quarterback that's facing 2 disgruntled wide receivers throughout the week and asking for more targets, even though Naylor caught 5 out of the 6 passes he was offered for big yards, you got to, kind of challenge J.J. McCarthy. And even if he doesn't want to throw to Justin Jefferson, he almost has to because Justin's been mad at him all week. And that's just stuff that I've seen in the locker room from other teams and, throughout all, the era of a young quarterback in that position. But I think it's for the Bears and how they react on offense. When you go back and you look at what they did to Lamar Jackson last week, they made him really uncomfortable. They blitzed him from some awkward areas. They brought pressure against him. He's on the injury report with a bad knee. So I think it's not necessarily what the Bears are going to do to their offense. I think it's what the Bears offense can do to their defense. Second time around, I think we're going to get a little bit, get to know Ben Johnson a little bit more about division teams. I'm glad that Ben Johnson's been in the division because he knows the difficulty of the communication inside Minnesota Stadium. So, I just think it's going to be an incredibly important division battle right after the midway point.
It's always interesting when the Bears take on Brian Flores' defense.
Because he's so different than anything you're used to seeing.
Yeah, so let's compare that first game to what we could see on Sunday, Tom. I know that these are different scenarios and, the season has its own image. But I remember that first game where we expected Flores to dial up the blitz, and we didn't see a lot of it early. I wonder, is that the game plan coming in? Do you remember that? Like, it wasn't until late until he was able to dial up more of the blitz against Caleb.
Yeah, he didn't until the second half, and I think it surprised us all. But, J-Hood, it's kind of similar to last week. Last week I said, okay, the Bears are going to come out, and I think they're going to try to run the ball because the Giants have all these quality pass rushers, and what they came out there, and they threw the ball. So because we're getting to know Ben Johnson for the first time, I don't know what to expect. But to me, how dysfunctional the crowd noise can make you on the offensive line of scrimmage, I think Brian Flores may be, invited to blitz a little more. When you look at what he did against Baltimore last week, and he had 7 men up at the line of scrimmage. And so now you're getting the 5 offensive linemen that they block for a living. That's what they do. Now you have to include tight ends, possibly Ozzie Trapillo, the running backs, and maybe even a wide receiver a time or two. And if Brian Flores feels like I have an advantage with one of my rushers against just one of their blockers, that's all you need. And that can make an offense dysfunctional. So I guess it's going to be, a trial and error thing. But, again, as the more we get to know Ben Johnson, I have such faith in his creativity and the way that he wants to attack an opponent, whether it's home or on the road. And this is the first time we get to see him against the same opponent twice in the same year. And I know there's been a lot of differences, even though they had Carson Wentz for a period of time. But J.J. McCarthy is back in the mix, and I'm interested to see how Dennis Allen attacks him as well.
In terms of watching Caleb, and you watch, as I say, every week, every snap at practice and every snap of every game, what are you seeing from him? Because Hoodie has a Jason Leisure clip where he questions Caleb. Boy, you're sensational the last 5 minutes. What are you not doing the other 55 minutes to play at that level. And I thought it was a mature answer from Caleb. He went through a bunch of different things. What are you seeing when you put the tape on about him and his development?
I just think that he's still in the midst of development, Cap. I don't think this is a finished product by any means. And I know there's 60 minutes in the game, but when you get that sense of urgency in the last 5 to 8 minutes of a football game, I admire what Caleb is able to do. And even if it's a scrambling ability, his peripheral awareness of where blitzers or rushes are won, his escapability, his willingness to take it down the sideline and, and really hunt for the end zone. His conditioning is second to none when you think about how exhausted some of those guys are in the fourth quarter. So, Shoots, listen, I still think this is a progress. This is something that is going to take time to develop. Ultimately, what we're going to see out of Caleb. And for you guys talking before I came on about the different quarterbacks around the league in comparison, you take Josh Allen, you take Lamar Jackson, you take Patrick Mahomes, you take all those guys and put them in the first year of their offense, because this is the first year of a really difficult learned offense by Ben Johnson. And you compare all these guys at that stage of their careers, I think there's a little bit more, you can compare them as equals a little bit more than you take a guy like Lamar, how long he's been in that system, Mahomes, how long he's been with Andy Reid, Josh Allen, how long he's been in the NFL now. So I just think that we're not going to see the best out of Caleb maybe for a year, maybe even two.
What about Justin?
Oh, wow. Don't even. Tom, don't take the bait. The cult is out there still thinking Justin's this great player. Don't even take the bait.
Justin
Fields?
Yes, Justin Fields.
Listen, I don't think he was ever offered a system for his qualifications. And I think that was unfair to Justin. If I was Justin, I would have done nothing but play action and bootlegs until teams got wore out by it. And then I would use his escapability and his athleticism to develop what he is offered to him. You go back and you look at a career like Randall Cunningham, and you got to be old to know who Randall Cunningham is. So I'm probably going over the top of the head of some listeners. However, you had to figure out a plan of attack that would fit Randall Cunningham's qualifications the best. A great escapability, a great athlete, a big, long, powerful arm, and finally they were able to kind of put together a system that best fit his skill level. So I think that's one of the unique things about coaches is you got to look at what your player or what your quarterback can offer you, and then ultimately develop his traits into a system. I just think that when you're in the midst of learning the system perfectly, you know exactly where your setup point is going to be and where the receivers are going to be. And you see it on a couple of questions or on a couple of throws like the Luther Burden late or Roma Dunze late. And you see how perfectly he can be as a quarterback once he knows the system perfectly. But then you see that late throw to Colston Loveland. He's a little bit on the move. He's got a late reaction. The throw's a little bit off target, but Colston makes an unbelievable catch. I just think that the more that Caleb is allowed to repeat the terminology, go through the reps in practice, the better quarterback he's going to be fundamentally, because he knows the exact whereabouts of every single time he throws the ball. And I remember when a couple of years ago when New England beat the Bears by 50 points, and it was in New England, and Tom Brady threw 11 slant routes to Brandon LaFell, and he threw it to the exact same guy, the exact same point for 10 first downs. And, that's what offensive football is. It's, repeat and repeat. And then I was really thinking in that game, and I said it to myself, I bet you Tom Brady could go take the snap with his eyes closed, drop back and throw the ball, and it would come within a catchable distance of him. And so I just think that's what we all as Chicago Bears fans that's what we need the luxury of watching, is time within the terminology and system, and then we're ultimately going to see the quarterback that Caleb was drafted to be. He's in that process, but it's a difficult process, and it's just not immediately done.
Okay, Hoodie's got the Minnesota Miracle on the McMahon game from 85 on his monitor, and I'm watching. He's like got the whole game. It's not just highlights. It's super cool. Whether it's that game or another, give us a story about a game in Minnesota. You could have played, broadcasted, whatever it is.
That was that game that night. So the night before, Jay Hilgenberg and I went out to dinner, and we both bought these Viking hats. And to prove it to you, I still have it, and I'll show it to you. I'll send you a picture of it because it's really funny. But so Jay and I used to locker next to each other in the game locker room. And after the game, Dick was looking in the lockers, and he saw the two hats. And he goes, all right. So he grabs Jay's. And if you go back and you look at the post-game press conference, Ditka is wearing Jay's hat that we bought the night before the game. Jay never got it back. So some way, shape, or form, Ditka tucked that thing away and took it with him, and I still have mine. So Jay and I always kind of laugh about that. And another thing, that was the first game that I started playing. And because I was so angry that I didn't play in the first two games of the year, I kind of go, it doesn't matter if I show up or not. I'm going to take the last bus. I'm not going to tape my ankles. I'm going to wear low-cut shoes. I'm not going to tape my wrist and my hands. And then in the middle of the second quarter, Kurt Becker hurts his knee. And so Dick Stanfield comes up to me and goes, Becker got hurt. You're in. And so I went into that game, and I just learned a really important lesson, is that you better be 100% prepared, whether you're starting the game or you're not. And so I went in there, made it through the first half, ran into the locker room, got my ankles taped, got high-top shoes on, got spatted, taped up all my wrists and my fingers and everything. And then on the first McMahon touchdown, that's when Walter Payton picked up that blitz.
Yeah, Dennis Johnson was the blitzer.
Yes, but the thing about that blitz, Cap, is so if that blitzer's on the heels of the defensive lineman, he's my responsibility. And then Walter would take my guy. And so because he's kind of pulling your chain and he's going back and forth, I'm going, okay, I got to commit, and I just hope Walter sees it the same way I do, because we don't have a lot of time in working together on that blitz. And so I go and I take my defensive lineman, and Walter steps up and just lights up that blitzer. And I think to myself that if we would have been both thinking wrong, or I was thinking wrong and Walter was thinking right, McMahon would have got hit and hurt.
Oh, God, that guy came with evil intent, because I watched it the other day. That block by Walter Payton was just crunching.
And I think that might have been the first play McMahon was in.
It was.
Because the play was supposed to be a screen left. But he watched the rotation of the safeties, and he said, oh, my God, Willie's going to be running free. And so he ended up throwing it to Willie for the touchdown when it was supposed to be a screen left. And as he came off the sideline, Ditka goes, what did you call? And he goes, Coach, I called a screen, but I saw the safety shifting, so I threw it to Willie. And,
awesome.
The rest is history.
Yeah. Oh, my God. It was unbelievable.
What a miracle for the Bears. What a miracle.
Yep.
McMahon. And by the way, as Cap and I watched that game, your first game, the ball got out quickly back then, too. McMahon did not take a lot of time to get the ball out. It was quick.
McMahon was one of the smartest football conversationalists, evaluators of anybody I've ever talked to about football. Because he left college, he had 72 NCAA records by the Lavelle Edwards system in BYU. When he came into the NFL, he was a lot smarter than a lot of offensive coordinators in the NFL because of his experiences in college. And Andy Reid was one of his offensive tackles on that BYU team that he played with, and that's why Andy Reid became the coach that he's become.
Tom, as always, we appreciate the time.
Yeah, man.